Good evening. Today is Thursday, September 4th, 9 p.m. Central European Time, and this is Turn 2, Episode 35 with Frodan, Gnimsh, and our special guest, Kolento. Today's topics we'll talk about Kolento's #1 ladder finish, as well as his seed for BlizzCon qualifier news, and of course, Kolento's win at VGVN #2, and preview some of the other cool tournaments that's happening around the scene. Joining with me as my host, as always, is Marcin Gnimsh Filipovic, the team captain of Cloud9. Marcin, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, well, it's going great. I was having so much fun the last weekend when we casted VGVN, and basically the announcement of the BlizzCon qualifier being this weekend was kind of a weird thing to hear, but fortunately it was moved. We'll talk about it, but definitely a lot of exciting stuff coming forward. And hey, we have my teammate Kolento here with us today, so it will be a great episode.
Yeah, Kolento, how's it going, buddy?
Hello, everyone. How is it going? Everything is well.
Well, yeah, I bet you finally got a big tournament win under your belt, and you're top ranked for the BlizzCon qualifiers, and so you can just sit back and cruise while everyone else is going to be sludging away, practicing their butts off for the tournament.
I was working on it like 4 months. It's deserved vacation.
Yeah, definitely. So, Kolento, we do have people who watch the show or even listen to it on podcast, and they don't know too much about your background. Maybe they've tuned into your stream once or twice. Can you briefly talk a little bit about yourself, your gaming background, and a little bit about you as a person?
Okay, before Hearthstone, I was playing competitively in World of Tanks team. I was a player and then team captain. So all logic stuff, decision making, it was on me. And then Hearthstone career, I just got a OBT Hearthstone. No, it was a closed beta testing of Hearthstone. I got the key in one of the gaming events in Moscow called Igramir. Then I tested then I tested how can I compete in Hearthstone, and I actually got rank 1 once, not on stream. I was unknown, just did it. I was playing a lot of arenas and stuff, and I wasn't care about streaming at all. But when I did it, I felt like, why not to try? I can just stream couple days, and if it will work, maybe I can be a streamer. And that's how it began.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good for you. You're one of the most popular Twitch streamers now. So you mentioned that you played World of Tanks competitively and that you were captain of the team. Were you a scout? Were you an artillery player? Were you a tier 8 player? Like, what were you? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I was like a not captain but commander. I'm not good in team as an organizer. I was just I was the one who's ordering players what to do.
Gotcha.
And
shot
choosing
calling.
tactic. Yeah. So after becoming captain, I was mostly sitting on tier 1 tank. It's like smaller tank in 7-on-7 format.
Are you having Oh, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Before I was playing on heavy tanks, light tanks. I mean, yeah, just I was playing on tanks. That's it.
Well, I'm guessing you have a lot more fun with Hearthstone now and a lot more success. And when you kind of moved into Hearthstone and you started laddering a lot, what kind of like first started catching your eye with the competitive scene? Because you were on Mana Grind for a while, but even then you still weren't competing in tournaments much.
So I was getting some invites into tournaments, but I even had no passport to travel. And once I made it, it's still visa problem. for me because I'm living in Ukraine, and to travel into any European countries, I need to get visa first. Same about the US or China, whatever. So it's really complicated for me. And the first tournament I actually managed to travel at, it was a Millennium Cup in France. I played uh, I played second, and it's a nice result, I think.
Is
Uh,
being in.
do,
Oh, do you want to
yeah,
ask?
sure.
Gnimsh?
Do you have any experience with the card games? Like, did you have any experience before, or did you just play the World of Tanks
Not in
game?
collective card games. I was just playing card games with my brother when I was young, and just with my family. But not in card games. I just felt like, wow, the CG should be really fun to do, to play.
So how did you actually get? Because in card games we have all those concepts like card advantage, board advantage, tempo. Did you when you got into Hearthstone, like on a serious note, did you study it, or did you just play a lot and understand those concepts at some point?
I was watching Trump stream before I get to my closed beta testing key. So even when I began playing Hearthstone, I was doing like 8 wins arena runs without any problems. It looks, I mean, card games, they're logical and plays not so hard to know what plays should be theoretically better.
Okay, and well, this is also a good thing because your approach to the game is really mathematical. It's like you really make the calls based on percentage and math. Um, how did you? It's like how hard it is for you to make a play which is based on heart. Like I really want to play that Leroy and try it, even though I know that the chance is really slim. Are you able to make that play in a like tournament environment?
I mean, sometimes it's really tough calls when you're doing something weird and you're just guessing if it's correct or not, which play will give you better chance of winning. But basically, when you're behind, it's fine to take probably like 5 risks in game to lose, but just to have one chance to win to come back.
Okay, Frodan, any other questions to Kolento?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Kolento a little bit about his living situation. People were kind of worried for a while, especially when when you're off the stream for like a week or so. People are like, did Kolento die, or is he in trouble in Ukraine? Is there any kind of actual real life situations that will prevent you from being able to go like BlizzCon, for example, or future tournaments? Because people want to see you competing more often.
As I said, it's a problem for me to get all required visa to travel. So right now I'm working on getting visa into Sweden. To is it actually announced?
Yeah. DreamHack announced that the top 16 will be at DreamHack Stockholm end of September.
Yeah, so I'm working on visa right now, and later I'll be working on visa into China. This tournament is not announced, right? So we can talk about it, but uh, I just don't know if I will get all visas in time, and then I should choose one of this tournament. What is more important, and I actually don't know.
And
Have you
this
considered
applies.
have you considered moving, like changing your country so that you can actually travel freely to all those events? Because you are becoming, you are a pro player, you are on cloud 9, and well, it will be cool if you can travel to all the events. So have you considered like moving? And because you can stream from every country, it's mostly about staying with your family, I guess, and you know.
Yes, it's true, but to move somewhere, I mean, change nationality, or I mean, change
Your
country
country.
of living. It's not so simple. I should have relatives somewhere in European country. Plus, I know only English, and English is not enough to like live in France or Germany, whatever.
True.
Well, I'm doing okay. I don't know German that well, but English is okay to get me by in Berlin at least. So you're
But I
welcome
barely
at
know
least
a
to come
couple
to
of
this
words in
point.
German.
Well, Ukrainian sounds a lot more complicated than German, that's for sure. Kolento, I guess the last question I want to kind of get a general sense is how do you approach tournaments? With people who focus solely on competitions, like for example, Gnimsh is not known as like a ladder player, but he goes to tournaments and he likes to prepare a bunch of decks with his teams and specifically test matchups. I know that a lot of ladder players just kind of keep playing games and just keep grinding ladder as their method of practice. And I was just kind of curious how you actually prepare for tournaments and what's kind of the mindset that you go into some of these competitions with.
I'm really lazy person, I should mention. So sometimes I have like 1 hour to prepare for tournament because I just forgot that I should play a tournament.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it really happened once or twice. So how do I prepare? Um, just trying to read rules of tournament if I'm like feel like I have a time or I'm not. I feel like I can spend some time to read rules or yeah. Sometimes I don't even read rules. Okay, it's another story. I don't want to
Oh
talk about
no.
it.
Have you ever gotten in trouble in a tournament for like doing the wrong rules of like accidentally breaking like format or like decks or something like that?
No, the most problem I had like I was preparing decks and then suddenly it's a Vita system in tournament and I can just ban Hunter and I can play Shaman. I can remove flares from my Hunter deck. It's gives so many opportunities.
Okay, gotcha.
So every deck should be revoked then, and it's not so much time left.
Was this true of VGVN number two, which is basically our first topic we want to hit here? That you didn't prepare much. It seemed like you generally had a really strong deck lineup. The Druid deck performed very well. But how was your preparation for this tournament? Were you kind of just winging it again for this kind of event?
So I just was playing ladder, and I was testing this Druid deck. I was testing all decks, and then this Vito system in VGVN. I was just thinking like, if I'm actually banning Hunter, in my ladder experience, what decks are strong and what they're struggling with. For example, almost all my lineup was weak against Warlock, aggro, and control drawer. So to counter aggro, I choose to play Priest, and Trump was actually banning my Priest all time, and he was playing aggro, and I was like so disappointed, and I got so lucky that he didn't win a single game with aggro. That's really, it was really lucky from my side. So I just felt like maybe I will not face too many Warlock decks. Even in my Shaman deck, I was playing only one Lightning Storm. In Hunter deck, I wasn't using explosive traps. So yeah, it was my weakness. No BGHs, no Black Knights, so kind of like it's also not a good deck for me to play against. But I faced only one Handlock in tournament, and I baited with Druid, and one Zoo, two times or 3 times I faced Zoo, and I baited with Druid, and yeah, it was super lucky for my side.
Yeah, I think the
But
moment
overall,
that people. Oh, finish up. Go ahead.
okay, so I prepared for control matchups well. My Shaman deck was strong, and Druid tends to beat Warrior, and probably Paladins also.
So basically, this is how you win the tournaments. You prepare, and then you take a risk with some matchups. And if you get lucky, you just steamroll other matchups because you're prepared versus control. You were weak to aggro, but you managed to actually defeat aggro because you got a bit lucky there. And and then there is a win.
Yeah, I can remember matches against Zoo. First time I got double innervate and 3-2 drops with coin, so I played all hand on first turn. And
Yeah.
then swiped up deck on 5 mana when my opponent had like about 5 minions at 1 toughness.
Yeah, that was a
Was
pretty
crazy.
sick game. I think like Trolden would be very happy with the whole game as funny lucky moments.
Probably.
All right, let's recap. By the way, VGVN number 2, so that way anybody who didn't watch can get a good sense of where we're landing. The tournament had 8 players. I was casting alongside Gnimsh, and there was a group stage with some of the cool players that qualified from both the open side as well as invited from the previous tournament. Amaz and Reels, the finalists, and we had Sixo and Hybara as 2 of the open qualifier players who went through the entire single elimination bracket and got to the group stage. That is. And then in the semifinals, it was pretty one-sided. Hyped and Kolento pretty much stomped, trumped, and tied, at least by score, maybe not necessarily in the games. And then in the final, Hyped ended up losing to Kolento 4-1. He did take a game with his Mage deck, which is also one of the weird, unique decks that people have been seeing recently. No Fireball in Mage, for example. But in the end, Kolento's Druid deck just proved way too strong, even though he was also able to take series with his Shaman deck as well. I guess the first question I wanted to toss out here is the state of the tournament meta, and it seems like people are really trying to take advantage of the ban system. And people are able to sneak in really cool decks. People haven't really caught on to the combo Druid by the time Kolento was playing it, or even Hyped bringing his Mage deck. Gnimsh, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the Hype's Mage? Because I know you're a Mage enthusiast. Did you approve of his deck and how he played it?
Oh yeah, certainly. As I was really excited to watch how the deck rolls. It's so different than the standard mage decks that we know, like the aggro or control mage. It's mostly minion based. Like no fireballs are so weird, but he's mostly fighting for the board control and getting board control and other minions with duplicate and many, like he had a lot of strong minions that he can duplicate without any problems. Like getting Kern, getting a couple of Savannahs, Twilight Drakes. Like we talk about it many times, where Twilight Drake seems to be vulnerable to air shock, but if there's a duplicate and you get 2 more, like it's a great card, right? So I really like the playstyle, and actually Hyped. As far as I know, there is a new article on Temple Storm when Hyped is going through the deck and explaining his thought process on the deck building. So from my end, the deck was pretty fun to watch, and well, he lost to Kolento in a fatigue fight, but still, I think it was very brave for him to bring this deck. It's cool to see the new deck ideas in this kind of tournament. An element of surprise is also very important when you're bringing a new deck to this kind of tournament, because if you face something like that as a surprise, it's really hard to adjust. Like really expect what kind of cards are going there. Like Molten Giants, for example, should I expect him taunting them up or not, or what's going to happen? So yeah, a pretty cool deck, a pretty cool situation.
Kolento, what's your opinion on this Mage deck? Especially you were going through it. It seemed a little confusing at certain points, huh?
Yeah, as some cards you're not actually playing around often. It's like Con of Cold. He was playing 1, and I was actually I was trying to position my minions to make Argus better, but I never thought about Con of Cold. So at some point it was like bad position from my side in this case. And yes, the element of surprise is really important when I was playing first game against Hyped. These Molten Giants, I wasn't prepared for them. But when I was playing second game, it wasn't so. It wasn't a surprise since I already saw it. So it went better for me. But I actually think this deck is really interesting and requires some attention. Since in a tournament with ban system, like Hunter should stomp this deck, right? I mean, there's freezing spells and doomsayers, but Hunter has Hunter's marks to beat all this stuff, and even small board can be problematic since Hunter has an ability to deal a huge amount of damage without having any board. And plus these flares against secrets. So yeah, if you can ban Hunter, this deck seems really powerful.
What about the exclusion of like Fireball and other kind of cool cards? Do you feel like it's really smart, or do you feel like he's just getting away with murder and it only works one time? Because you said it is a surprise, and once you see these cards the first time, you're not really worried about the second time as much because you can play around it. Do you feel like that's a really cool thing? Can you provide some commentary on excluding real staple cards like that?
So Fireball, I just think about cards you can actually fireball in this meta. What are we facing? Let's say we play against Warrior. He plays Sylvanas. But Sylvanas is usually being played on board with when you have something on it. So you can just fireball it. You need to trade, or Sylvanas will steal something. So Kion can be played, you don't actually want to fireball it. Sludge Belcher is still Slime. Yeah, so in Warrior case, there's no big threats you want to fireball actually, right? And if you're using it just to deal face damage, you need to have minions before playing fireball to deal damage before burst, right? So it makes sense against Warrior. Against Paladin, like saying
Same minions mostly. Sylvanas, Belcher,
yeah, maybe
Lothar.
you can fireball Black Knight or Tyrion after pin, but nothing else comes in mind. And it's often better to have just polymorph, not a fireball. If you don't care about burst, if you play in control game, you don't need fireballs actually. Fireball seems fine. It's a tempo play. Helps you to beat Zoo. And you can use it as burst as well, plus freezing effect. But fireballs are not important.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's so interesting to hear that after Nextramas the metagame changed to the point and the decks changed as well. That cards like Fireball were before when you were building a mage, you were starting with 2 fireballs every time, like double frostball, double fireball. And right now with the fireball, just as you said, is it's really a card that you can not include because it might not make sense with your deck strategy. So it's really cool to hear.
Before, Naxxramas mage couldn't do well if you're running control mage deck, but with duplicate and all these death rattle minions. I mean, with duplicate, you can just pick what minion you want to duplicate. You can duplicate like Ragnaros. You can just play it and you have duplicate active, and opponent rather kill it or he's taking damage over time. Or Sludge Belchers even. It's all fine. Mage can play control games duplicate now. So yeah, it's definitely deserve of Naxxramas minions and spells.
What about Hunter? Is Hunter just killing mage because of flares, or what do you think?
You mean that particular deck or mage overall?
I think that particular deck. What do you think about this? It will be too much to go into.
Against that particular deck, Hunter is really strong. Like the deck runs Frost Novas and Cone of Cold and Blizzard 1, Blizzard, and Doomsayers. So what Hunter do? I mean, Doomsayer is still working well. But not really. Hunter can have Hunted Creepers, Hunter can have high mains. They're not so vulnerable to this Doomsayer. And Hunter's Mark, it's all working well. Maybe Hunter can even run Iron Becal, just to silence it. So a Hunter requires really small board to beat the type of mage. Hunter has Flare. Hunter can deal damage with hero power. If mage relies on secrets, it's just simply enough to keep Flare in your hand and deal unpredictable damage with your Leroy or whatever you play, like kill commands if you run beast heavy deck. And it just comes to maintain board control in early stage of game. All these freezing spells, they're not working well.
Okay. So maybe when we are on this topic, by the way, what do you think about Hunter in the current metagame? I mean, at the VGVN, everybody was banning Hunter, but do you think Hunter is too strong, or are there actual ways to counter the deck?
I think Hunter is the type of deck which not allow meta to fall heavy in control favor. If you play like really heavy on Legendary's deck, you will most of the time just lose to Hunter. And right now, since Miracle Rogue is not so popular, Hunter like took Miracle's place, and he's the deck which slows down this control deck's progression. So I feel like Hunter is really important part of current meta. Is it strong? Is it overpowerful? I mean, overpowered? I think meta adapts. Right now, Hunter one of the top tier decks. It's true, but it's you can have preferable matchup against Hunter if you will make some adjustments in your decks. It's possible.
Okay.
Can you give some suggestions right off the top of your head? Because I think people are looking for answers, and a lot of people are experimenting with like priest and warriors. So like, what jumps off like the first ideas that you have to counter Hunter immediately for you?
I can let's say, for example, warrior. Game is usually decided when you regain board control as a warrior, when Hunter has no minions and you have something to affect the board without using your mana, like having Cairn, for example. So what people are struggling with, they're trying to get value from hero power in early stages of games. They're trying to keep shield block for shield slam for some reason. When what you need just strong tempo swing. You need to break Hunter's board. And then you can just hide under the taunts. You can play Ragnaros. You don't even care about traps. That's all what you need. And after, it's just so simple to stabilize. You have Hunter has no cards left. You have endless amount of mana. You have Alexstrasza, all your late game stuff. So it's more not about having particular cards. It's about approach to this matchup.
Okay.
Yeah, probably cards like Sanjin Shieldmaster over Heavy Asira can help you, definitely.
It's
As a
so
priest,
fast. Yeah, continue.
yeah, as a priest, it's cards like Silence helps a lot. Shadow Madness works well. It's all about breaking the hunter's board he's trying to maintain in early stage of the game without taking too much damage. That's it.
Okay. It seems like a lot of people actually struggle because they don't know how to play the matchup, and it's so interesting. Like you heard here from the first player EU qualified for BlizzCon, like top 16 phase 2, who approaches this matchup in a different way. So, Frodan, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think he's right. Like in terms of how you play the matchup, I think just because like I think one of the most insightful commentaries I've ever heard was Strifeco lecturing Gnimsh on how to play Token Druid at IEM Shenzhen. And he says like Token Druid's a fast deck, but Gnimsh was playing it too fast. And he like explained about how you can't just innervate things because you can. It has to be like playing to certain turns that other classes are weaker or more powerful and using innervate to disrupt it. It was like one of the most cool discussions I've ever heard. Grant Gnimsh was just nodding and like, yeah, you're right. But Strifeco was like sharing a lot of insight. And I think Kolento touches upon a really cool topic of hitting the matchup where it hurts the most for your opponent. So cards like Shadow Madness or Senjin can help a lot, but it's more about how you approach tackling Hunter's weaknesses specifically. And then from that point on, like you said, if you have Ragnaros and you're just playing really small like things and you don't really die to any of their ways to draw cards, then Hunter can't do much. So I think it's really cool insight that he just shared. I don't know what you think, Gnimsh.
Yeah, I certainly agree. It's so interesting to me that Hearthstone is a really complex game. Like a lot of people approach it like, hey, I got this deck that Kolento got to first place EU with, and I would just wreck ladder. And they play the deck and they find themselves with some success, but they can't replicate exactly how Kolento is playing it because they are missing those concepts and understanding of the matchups and of the metagame. So. Yeah, it's really cool to hear those things and how the deck ticks and what are the small things that really decide the matchup and are pushing it from like 50% to maybe 70 or even 80%. So yeah, it's really cool. By the way, I have a question to you about this Druid deck, by the way, because Hyped Mage was great. Hunter discussion is cool, but you were running this Druid deck that was designed by Strifecro, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about it, and how did you come to actually playing it?
I was just trying it. I was testing it on ladder, and I just added it as one of my decks to play on VGV, and that's it.
Sounds good to me.
It worked.
Is it one of the best decks you feel like? Because people were saying after Next Rammus was fully released, Druid seemed to lose a lot of power because, for example, cards like Swipe got a lot weaker because of death rattles. You have to set it up a lot more. People can really contest the early game, so that way Innervate's not as strong. Like people were saying Druid was weakening, but this deck feels like it puts Druid back at the top. Do you have any comments on that sentiments at all?
Actually, I don't feel like this deck is like super strong. It's like every other deck is just maybe decent, maybe a bit above decent, but this deck is so depends on early drops. If you're not getting your cards you need, like Innervate, or probably just 2 drops if you're going without coin. Without this early game power, how do you even compete with your opponent? So, and in some matchups, cards like Hunted Keeper and Equinus doesn't do much at all, like Priest matchup. What do you do with all these small tokens? You can play Equinus, Priest just answers like Zombie Chow. Kills one, kills second one, heals it. Nice. You just spent 2 mana and you did nothing.
Fair enough. I was just kind of curious to see like how you thought the Druid stacks in the current meta, and I thought it did make a lot more sense. Granted, again the Hunter ban and how you're approaching your match preparation. I kind of wanted to also ask a little bit about that. People are still discussing the ban system currently and talking about how it's good that if you ban Hunter, it allows more diversity if Hunter isn't as strong and destroying everything. But people also think that it takes away a little bit of innovation. Do you have any opinions? I haven't heard you chime in yet on whether or not you like the ban system or you feel like it should be tweaked or taken away.
Ban system is a bit confusing. Like if people are actually trying to copy decks they see on tournaments, it might not work since it's a ban system and players can just make decks to be vulnerable to one matchup they're banning and to be better against anything else. So it's gonna be confusing for some way, but as for players, I feel like it's fine. It allows to have some extra advantage if you understand better what you need from decks.
So overall, do you like it, or do you?
As a player, I like it.
Okay.
If,
did you want to ask anything?
By the way, no, I just want to mention that as a teammate of Kolento, when Kolento is saying that something is fine, it means that he's really excited about it and he loves it.
Oh, okay. He's one of those guys who describes it very. He undersells it every single time. Totally cool. All right. Well, okay, I think we're about done with VGVN number 2. Did you want to talk about anything else, Gnimsh? Otherwise, I can kind of move on.
I'm good. I feel we have a lot of questions from the viewers, but we can leave them to the end of the show when we will have the Q&A, and we can ask Kolento more questions there, so we can move forward.
All right. That's right, guys. Just wait a little bit longer, and we'll be able to answer your questions, probably about like 20, 25 minutes. VGVN number 3, by the way, is happening in 1 week, basically. The qualifiers for the next one are about to take place soon, so make sure to sign up. If you go to liquidhearth.com, you have the opportunity to register. The next invites are out. Obviously, Kolento and Hyped are the top 2, so they advance to VGVN 3. But there's also some other cool invites, and it seems to have one thing in common, which is BlizzCon qualifier seeds performance. Firebat, I don't know how to say his name, Nairia? Is that how you say his name? Or Kolento?
Maybe Naira.
Naira. Okay. He's also one of the top 2 seeds.
I don't know for sure.
Oh.
Maybe it's Naira, maybe Naira. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, this guy is also a top 2 seed from Europe, and he's going straight to DreamHack Stockholm. And they also invited Brian Kibler and Sixo for his notable performances in the Open Qualifier. This kind of lineup is really cool.
No, I mean, it's a cool story about Sixo. For the viewers who are actually not following VGVN, Sixo qualified for the first one from the open brackets through like, I don't know, 250 players, something like that. The Wings, how many rounds did they had? 8 rounds? 8 rounds, I think. So 8 rounds, he won. It was single elimination. and then he falls short at the tournament. But for the second VGVN, he qualified again, doing 8-0, so 16-0. So right now for the third VGVN, 6-0 was actually invited back, so he doesn't have to qualify for the third time. He is invited again, so he will be the only player for all those three tournaments that will actually be playing for the first time, which is kind of cool. It's showing that you can qualify from those open brackets, and you can earn your invites later on. So it's a good story.
Yeah, and people kind of say that 6-0 is like, oh man, well, he's a good open tournament player, but they forget that he's also like ranked number 4 at BlizzCon based off the seed. So he was just a couple of points short from being able to contest maybe Kolento and Naira if he was able to get some higher ladder seeding. So it seems like he's shown an amazing amount of consistency. And then the last person, Brian Kibler, the Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer player, the guy who's been recently chiming in with some of his opinions about competitive format. He's also been performing well. I ran to ladder to him earlier today, actually, a couple of times. And his priest deck, he seems to continue to play with it and really show some cool stuff. I don't know how much you guys have been following him specifically, but I think Brian getting more involved in Hearthstone is very exciting because as a pro MTG player, it brings more legitimacy to have players like his resume in the competitive scene.
Well, I'm not sure how much Kolento is familiar with Brian Kibler, but from what I know, Brian is actually a very good TCG player. He's also working as a TCG designer. He was one of the designers of the World of Warcraft TCG when he was working for Upper Deck. And right now he's Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer. He's behind Soulforge as well as one of the designers, working together with Richard Garfield, the original designer of Magic the Gathering. So Brian, definitely a personality. He's really vocal. He's very positive, always has good things to say. And I'm really happy that he's taking interest in Hearthstone. Right now, for sure, he's not dropping Magic. It's just treating Hearthstone as a side game. But maybe if he gets more involved, maybe he will be like retiring from Magic and going full Hearthstone. That would certainly be a cool thing. Right now, he's sharing some good blog posts. He's tweeting about cutting Death Lords from his deck because they threaten his mental health. So it will be definitely cool to see Brian perform versus our best players, because this tournament is so stacked with Kolento, with Firebats and Hyped and Sixo and Neria. Like, I'm only missing Life Coach from this tournament, from those ladder beasts that always get like first spots and perform very well. It's funny, by the way, because it seems like the people who are playing in this tournament, like all of the people who are playing this tournament, are already qualified for the phase 2 of the World Qualifier.
Yeah, other than Brian and 6-0's actually has to go through phase 1 as well, though, right?
Yeah, 6-0 will have to go for phase 1.
Gotcha. So yeah, make sure to pay attention to VGVN number 3, which is coming up next week. But also, people are highly focused upon what Gnimsh just mentioned, which is phase 0 and phase 1 of the BlizzCon qualifiers. The last call tournament for Europe is going to be starting either tomorrow or the day after. I think it's tomorrow, actually, right? And make sure to sign up if you're from Europe. You have to be, I think, Legend at least in order to enter for this last call tournament. I believe there's something like 20 seeds given out, and then they eventually go to Swiss rounds next week for the tournament at the end of September. And there were some dates changes and a little bit of controversy. People were kind of upset that Blizzard announced this so short. Can you give a little bit more insight, Gnimsh? Because I know you were reading the details and you were sending to me as soon as they were being updated.
Sure. So basically, the first announcement wasn't really an announcement. It was like Blizzard posted information that the last LCQ, which is like last chance qualifier, will be, I think, today and tomorrow, which is Thursday and Friday. And they announced it, and they linked to the DreamHack page. And on the DreamHack page, there was information that, hey, really, Thursday, Friday, there is an LCQ. But then the phase 1 of the tournament, which is the 130 players from Europe, would have to play this Saturday and this Sunday, which basically was not really announced because they were mostly talking about LCQ. And then it was like 3 or 4 days notice for all the qualified players to notice this tournament and book their weekend to play in it. So it was really, really short notice. Well, the community was in a bind. Like there were a couple of notable players that couldn't make it, like this weekend, like KitKats, who's actually playing the EU qualifier, said that he's actually traveling, and Lothar is on his honeymoon. So I would also have to skip my cousin's wedding, which would be really, really
Oh,
nasty
really?
from the
Oh,
family
man.
side. So Blizzard didn't adjust to all the three people I mentioned. Like they did adjust to what happened and to the community reaction, and they did move the qualifier to the next weekend. So this weekend there is the LCQ. You can sign up, you can play, you can try to qualify. There are some good players playing, if I believe. Like Gara should be playing, I think, because he's not qualified yet. Darkwonix was not qualified as well, but Darkwonix will be playing at WEC in China. So unfortunately, he won't be playing in the phase 2 anyway. And then next weekend there is the qualifier, and I'm talking mostly EU, but it's the same for NA. So this weekend LCQ, both for EU and NA, different LCQs organized by different parties, because European is organized by DreamHack and NA1 is organized by NESL. And then next weekend there will be the phase 1 qualifier for 130 people for NA and for EU. EU, again, DreamHack, NA will be NESL.
It's by the way, I heard some people from Europe, like, oh, okay, sorry, to clarify, there's people who can enter the region of choice. For example, I heard Savitz is going to be using North America as his qualification pod, even though we know he's from Finland and he's just like a stone throws away from DreamHack Sweden, right? He could just hop on a plane very quickly for like an hour and get there. But he's going to go to North America because he feels like, well, maybe he has a better chance. Plus, it fits his schedule and accommodates a little bit better. People are kind of always kind of debating too, because they're qualified for 2 regions. I know some guys from Tempo Storm, they qualify for both EU and NA. And this is where I'm kind of going to toss a question to Kolento. Even though you're qualified for EU, do you think it really matters? Because some people are choosing North America as the quote easier region. Do you feel like this is the case?
I can't say that I know much about difference between these two servers. It looks really similar for me. I don't even know. I mean, as for me, I will participate in European qualifiers because I have no choice.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to ask your commentary because people seem to feel like the European region is slightly more competitive. But I guess if you feel like they're pretty much the same, because no matter what, it's about who's getting second place. Kolento is getting first, right? So I guess to you, it doesn't really matter.
Wow, I would not say sure. As for me, I feel like, okay, maybe if there is 16 players tournament overall, I mean, I'm already qualified in top 16, right?
Yeah.
So if there's 4 places, right? 4 places, am I correct? So maybe not 25, but maybe 35% chance for me to qualify. Depends, maybe even less for a bit, because all players in top 16 will be super skilled.
Well, unless some of them DDoS their way to the top 16, because I heard some of the players have plans like that. I'm sure that DreamHack and Blizzard will be trying to stop people from doing things like DDoS on the online qualifier. But those things might happen, so I really hope that nothing bad will happen during the online thing. There are so many ways to cheat and to use the system.
Don't give him any ideas, Gnimsh. People might be watching this podcast and thinking that they can drop hack or something their opponents, so that way they can keep qualifying.
I mean, I have no clue how is it working.
Well, I hope that if any cheaters make it to top 16, Kolento will punish them there. So
you make me feel like a superhero.
Cool. So yeah, guys, we just want to remind anybody who's like watching or listening, even because the VOD will be up later today, to make sure to register for your last call qualifiers. I know for North America, there is going to be a stream of some kind, Charles Viper /Milkcast. is going to be trying to put on a little production stream. He's asking for notable players in the last call tournament for North America if you want to be on stream. So hit him up. He posted a quick thread as well as on his Twitter at Milkcast with a 1. In the meantime, now that since we're talking about region and differences, there's also some Asian tournaments that's been going on. I don't know how much you guys have been watching, but it seems like there's a lot of region matches, whether it's China versus Japan or China versus Korea in the OGN Masters. Have you guys been able to follow any of the tournament scenes, either Gnimsh or Kolento?
You mean Korean or China tournaments?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually following them. I don't know players who are playing the games, but I was watching a couple games and I saw maybe a couple questionable plays, but they're playing really well.
Gnimsh, did you get to catch any of the Asian tournaments at all?
I was basically watching them like Kolento. So when some of my friends like Doa or Artosis they post that there is a tournament that they are just casting it, then I'm just clicking on a link and watching a couple of games while playing or like doing other stuff. So from my end, also like I'm not really into the scene that much, but it felt like the commentary got much better and the players also got much better on their side. So. Well, coming from other games, the Asian culture of gaming is always that they really study the games and they play a lot and improve and focus on one game only. Where in Europe and in NA, people mostly just play for fun, and even if they focus on one game, they still play a lot of other games at the same time, like side games. Well, Kolento may be an exception, playing only Hearthstone, I believe, right now.
I was playing Portal 2 for a bit.
Okay. Oh, good. Then good. You are playing other games as well. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, basically, if those guys are really playing a lot and training and studying the game, I'm sure they will get better really fast, and they are good right now. So, well, I'm really hoping. I'm excited for the upcoming tournaments like WEC, WCA, when we will have the clash of cultures when Asian players will be able to play versus European and NA players. That will be exciting to see.
We actually saw it in past.
Yeah, with like the 2P tournament.
EU versus China tournament, right?
Yeah, China has to redeem themselves because they haven't been doing that well, but they've been stomping Korea, at least in the OGN Masters. I tuned in because I wanted to see Masan play, because I actually chat with Masan pretty regularly about the meta and his streaming and being able to play in competitions and translating popularity into results, etc. Because he's really serious about trying to be a top level player. And he had his first match against Tiddler, who is kind of like the 6-0 of I don't know if it's China. Yeah, I guess it's China, where he just he wins open brackets really dominantly, and he didn't even drop a single game in the open qualifiers, let alone lose a series. Everything was a clean sweep, 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, 3-0. And so he got a really tough opponent. He lost 3-1. And it looks like China overall is starting to really pick up the pieces of the meta game. Their decks look pretty decent. There are some weird ones like the Token Rogue or something. That's a really weird one that I'm not sure about, where you use Via Teacher and you preparation sprint to create tokens. I don't know. But there are some weird stuff that's putting out there. They seem to have a good grasp on the meta game. And every time I talk to a player from China or Korea, because I sometimes chat with some Hearthstone players, they always think yeah, when the West comes, we're going to stomp you guys so hard. They keep trash talking me. And I'm like, well, are you even aware of the decks that you're playing? Some of them don't even make sense half the time. I don't know.
Oh yeah, certainly. That will be very interesting. And I'm trying to remember how it was in Magic and Warcraft. In Magic, when I was playing, when Japan got to play Magic, they started being really dominant because of the hours they were able to put. A lot of card game players, they are not pros. In Hearthstone, we have a lot of pros, and what being a pro means that you're actually living from the money you earn for the card game. And in Magic, it's really hard to be able to earn enough money to be able to just play all the time. So the thing was that Europe and NA, people had normal jobs, they had normal lives, they didn't have enough time to spend on the game. And in Asia, it's just you make a gaming house, and people play all the time, and they improve really rapidly. And that was the case in Magic. I feel like there was a lot of skilled players, a lot of great deck building, and they were always like a kind of a bit of a meta game. In World of Warcraft card game, we had mostly casual players. Like they got Warcraft really late, like in the middle of the existence of a card game, and they were still catching up. So they didn't have enough time before the game actually died to catch up and to shine. But they were getting scary at a very fast pace. And in Hearthstone, we can actually experience that. It will be amazing to see those players to actually overcome Europe and NA because of the time and dedication they put into the game. And if, I feel like in StarCraft, for example, a lot of players they're hungry for the win, because if they don't get the money, for example, from the tournament, then they won't be able to eat for a month or something like that. So we're in Europe and NA, it seems like, hey, I'm going to the tournament, but it's good. And if you put those, well, in a lot of Asian sports, it's like that as well. Like if you're not really popular, you're fighting for your food on a table, and then the dedication and motivation is really different than just, I play, I study, whatever. I can lose, I can win, it doesn't matter. So.
But you're saying that they don't, like, in some extreme cases, people are losing their month's money for food. That's pretty baffling. But I don't know, like, to do all that for Hearthstone, which is a game that sometimes is out of your control whether or not you win. That's pretty scary. But I guess, more power to them. There's a lot of tournaments that are starting to give out big money, especially in China. WC coming up this weekend, for example, 62,000, as well as that unknown Chinese tournament that has like an insane prize pool with announcements coming soon. It's an exciting time, but I haven't heard of anybody starving because they didn't draw Innervate. That would make me really sad to hear.
No, that's so. I mean, it's intimidating for me. Or what you're saying.
Yeah,
Don't get scared, Kolento. Don't get scared.
Cloud9 takes care of you guys. Don't worry. By the way, guys, we kind of just mentioned WEC. Make sure to tune in this weekend. I'm actually doing commentary for that with an English stream on Hitbox TV. I'm doing it with a Dota 2 caster. His name is Pimp Muckle, and it'll be on Hitbox. It'll be on 2p.com's Hitbox's channel. I'll be sure to tweet it out. But it starts in about actually 12 hours from now. I believe so. Yeah, Tide's already left for it. And the brackets are up too, by the way. So you can see it. And it's kind of unfortunate because we have 4 people from the West and 4 people from the East. And the 2 people from Europe specifically are going to be matching up in round 1, RDU versus Dark Wanix, right off the bat, which is a little sad because I want to see more EU versus, West versus East. Gnimsh, do you have anything to add to this tournament real quick?
Well, only that I'm excited to see this, and I will be definitely watching. I feel they will have the English stream. They actually asked me to cast, but I had to decline because of the wedding thing. But I'm definitely going to watch it. So I hope that my cousin won't kill me that I'm watching a stream on his wedding. But yeah, and this matchup, Dark Onyx versus RDU, we've seen it at the qualifier, right? It was the winners final, if I remember correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it will be cool to see if Dark Onyx has a chance to actually win versus RDU and take his revenge. Yeah, I'm excited to see also the decks that Alchemix is going to bring. He's always bringing something interesting, and his own fine-tuned decks, Ties of Time as well. So a really cool lineup for the players.
Kolento, who do you think is your favorite to win here if you're looking at the bracket?
I'm just a very intelligent player. Dark Phoenix never had a good success in ladder, but I never seen like horrible mistakes from his side. I guess once I saw mislethal from him, but I can say same about me when I did it when it was important. I mean, it wasn't important. I still was winning the game and I was counting about it. I mean, it's just really simple to mislethal if you're not thinking about doing phase damage. If you're thinking about if you really are hitting. when you're behind, you're always considering all options. How can you probably win? Okay, but it's not about your questions, right? Can you remember, please, what did you ask?
Oh, I just asked you, who do you think is the favorite here to do well? Whether it's win or like person that you're looking at as like the strongest player coming in here.
So, as I remember right, I lost 2 times to Dark Vonix when I was playing qualifiers for this Chinese tournament, how it calls.
WEC.
Yeah, WEC. But can I say that it was just because of Dark Vonix is so good, or probably I just had a bad luck? I will probably put my money on RDU. He's really a skilled player.
Yeah, all right. So he's vying for his European brothers. No love for the NA guys. All cool, Kolento. Yeah, so make sure guys to tune in this weekend. It starts in about 12 hours from now, at least for the European/English stream. And there's going to be a lot of cool stuff. It's double elimination bracket, $62,000 on the line. It's one of the biggest tournaments besides BlizzCon this year so far. And with that, let's move on to our last couple of topics before we go into the Q&A. The first one, Gnimsh wrote here saying, Cloud9 is officially ranked #1 by Gosu Gamers over Tempo Store. Well, thank you very much. And I guess that's why you invited another Cloud9 member so you can gang up on me. Congrats, guys. But I think a lot has to do with Kolento's strong performances. ECOP's still in the top 4 for Europe. And, Gnimsh is still pretty high up there in the top 25, I believe. Overall, it seems like the competitive scene rankings kind of line up. The more I use Gosu Gamers, like the top performers, the more it kind of makes sense. But for the most part, I think when like Asian players win a tournament and all of a sudden launch like the top 5, it kind of raises my eyebrows a little bit because I think that doesn't prove anything.
Well, it's we mentioned it many times. Like, we are relating to the ranking, and the guys are doing whatever they can. The ranking is sometimes weird, but it's the only ranking we have beside the ladder ranking. So it has it has game statistics. We can see the percentage. So it's the only thing we have. So obviously, if somebody is not happy with the Ghost rankings, if you can make a better ranking yourself and present it to the community and maintain it, because it's a lot of work. It's they are updating it almost real time. It's when we were casting the VGVN Frodan, I felt like we finished at like 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, and then I checked the Ghost Gamers ranking, and it's updated. So somebody is actually watching the games with us and updating it also real time. So the dedication those guys actually put into maintaining it is fantastic. And yeah, about the ranking, it's Cloud9 is first right now, but Tempo Storm was first before, and it seems like one tournament and it can shuffle again, and maybe MYM will be first because everyone is so close still, and the percentages are so close. So yeah, it's cool to be first for now, but...
Well, when Ties win this weekend, we'll pull in first. Don't worry, buddy. And when Reynad finally pulls out of his slump, I'm sure he'll raise our average significantly.
Certainly possible. I will be rooting for him.
I don't know about this rating. I mean, who determines how many points you will get from win or how much you will lose from a loss?
Yeah, that's actually the question, right? Like, how can you say this match is worth 16 points of rating versus, an important win could be just rated like 1 point for the win. And it's so easy to drop. I don't know. Like, the Ghosty Gamer guys are trying to refine it all the time, but it's like a cool thing. And as Gnimsh always tells me, Frodan, this is all we have. So we have to kind of use this ranking as a talking point, which is a fair assessment. Before, Gnimsh would always be like top 3 in the ESGN point rankings for Hearthstone. And he'd always like remind me, he's like, Frodan, I'm #1 or I'm #2. And like always Skype me and do a smiley face or something like that. So we don't have a better alternative, Kolento. That's the short version of it.
There was a funny thing, by the way, with the ranking, because they had this article, and I was like, in the article, Kolento was mentioned as being 5th in the world, like 3rd EU or something, or first EU, 5th in the world or something like that. And then I checked the ranking, and Kolento is actually like 13th or something, and nothing changed. Still the same number of wins, the same number of points. But suddenly he is 13th, and there was no way that actually all those people passed him in the last 3 or 4 days. So sometimes weird things happen with this ranking. Like they parse it and it changes from day to day because they change something like the points they get. But yeah, it's that only thing we have.
Well, I guess we'll just go with that. Kolento, do you want to say something?
This ranking is only considering tournaments, right? So it's tournament ranking, and probably not. This rank is not showing full picture. But yeah, as you said, we shouldn't complain about it since it's like the only thing we have.
Well, they're working to improve it. I think the biggest thing that I was a little upset about is, for example, people go through the BYOC of DreamHack. They go through the first tier rounds and they qualify for the main event. But say they drop out of group stage at 1 and 2, and even though overall in DreamHack they're beating other people like Forsen and KitKats and Sixo, they have like a lower ranking because the only matches that were shown on stream were the ones where they lost, even though their overall record in DreamHack was like 8 and 2. So it just feels like pretty terrible sometimes when the ranking doesn't really reflect how well they did in the tournament to even get to that point, which opens up another can of worms of like, well, invites versus open qualifiers. That's not what this podcast is for anymore. We talked about that to death. Our final topic we do want to talk about is a quick deck that's been introduced today by Firebat. It's called a Tempo Rogue, even though it takes a lot after Miracle with Gadgetzan and Leroy. It introduces cards like Alex Straza into the mix. We wanted to kind of get a few thoughts about it before you guys go a little Rambo on ladder and try to experimenting, and maybe give you a sneak peek into how the meta is starting to shift a little bit. And then after this, we're probably going to go into Q&A while we do some shout-outs. So that's the itinerary for the rest of the show. Let's look at this deck list a little bit. And Gnimsh, can you break down what this craziness is? Zombie Chow, Alex Straza, Defias Ringleader in a Miracle deck?
Well, so basically, I was talking to James Firebat, who is the creator of this deck, and which is also funny because he is the teammate of Backspace. So if this rogue picks up, there will be Backspace Rogue and Firebat Rogue. So both guys from Copenhagen Wolves will be the Rogue brothers. And he tells me that this list is actually pretty good versus Hunter, and it wins versus Hunter. So I was asking him, hey, why do you even release it before BlizzCon then if we have this list? He's like, yeah, I'm already qualified for phase 2, so whatever. And so he's giving us this list willingly, even though a lot of pros are really mad about spoiling this list, but you guys can actually play it now. And it should work. I mean, Zombie Chow is perfect versus Hunter because you can trade with the small minions. And Alex Straza is a card that actually limits the health of an opponent. So Leroy is better than... I mean, this deck is kind of slow because you fight for board control mostly, and then you play Alex Straza and finish them with Leroy because they only have 15 points of health after playing Alex Straza. So less combo, more about just fighting for the board and stalling to turn 9 and 10 with all the cards you have. Basically, I haven't tried it yet. I'm sure you guys have also like good thoughts, and Kolento can talk about it. I mean, I give it to Kolento like today, so I'm not sure if you had a chance to play with it, but I'm sure Frodan actually was chatting about it as well.
Yeah, I want to get Kolento's thoughts. Yeah, I want to get Kolento's thoughts before I can kind of just chime in anything, because Kolento's the guy who first introduced the concept of Miracle to at a popular level, that is, before people started really refining it. Do you think this deck works, or when you take a look at it, what's your initial thoughts?
So just looking at the list quickly, we have LK cards Miracle Rogue has. Shadow Step, Poison Prep, Backstab, One Sub, and yeah, it's all standard stuff. Blood Mage, Devil Fan of Nice. Okay, so probably lesser amount of minions on turn 3. Only one Farseer, but for some reason Firebat chose us to play Loot Hoarder and Defias Ringleaders. Well, these minions, they are decent against Hunter, since they don't have hero power and they can't remove it efficiently. Plus, even against hero power classes which can deal 1 damage with hero ability, you don't actually want to spend 2 mana just to kill 2/1 guy, right? So probably it makes some sense. It really requires testing, but I like seeing double Fan of Knives. I feel like in this meta, especially against Hunter, Fan of Knives working so well. But again, probably you have an upper hand against Hunter players. But if you're using this deck on tournaments, you will have a better win rate against any other class, even against the Warrior deck. What you have? Alex Traza, Warrior can stack armor. You need to deal damage before turn 9. If you just hold in all Burst and Leroy and Shadow Steps, not using Eviscerate on Warrior's face, and just waiting for this Alex, well, probably you can just die until this Burst comes, right?
Yeah, I think you're onto something. Oh, sorry, I thought you were finished. Continue.
And just some thoughts. It's Defense Ringleader and Loot Hoarder. So probably if you have Alex Traza in deck, you want to apply pressure and deal damage with this big legendary, right? So by using these small minions, what do you actually achieve? You want to deal damage before turn 9? Makes not a lot of sense for me. You want to use them as a removal?
Yeah, I guess
you need to spend a coin to make usage from Defiance Ringleader. I don't know. You just quest testing.
Yeah, it's definitely a list that looks interesting. And one of the first questions we got about this list is, what would you replace Alex Traza with? Because that's only the question. Like, or can you cut Leroy? Because, you know, some people don't have Leroy, so... Frodan, maybe. What do you think about cutting Alex Traza and Leroy from this list?
Well, like the first thing that jumps out to me is that there's no Lotheb in the mix anymore. And Lotheb just makes so much sense for Miracle to lock down the ability to do a lot of stuff. Not to mention Shadow Stepping Lotheb multiple times establishes really impressive board control if you're ahead on board. So, if you don't have Alex Straza, I guess another effective way to set up turns, because Alex Straza is a setup card anyways, or a rebound, is Lotheb, and you can get that off of the Soul Adventures. You don't have to pay too much, since I feel like most people have gone through Next Rammus at the moment. Other than that, Alex Strauss is pretty much irreplaceable. Her battle cry is not easily affected or replaced by any other card, in my opinion. And that's like the crux of this deck. I guess.
You know, if you want to replace Alex Strauss, probably you should also remove Zombie Show and it's a completely different deck. I mean, what's the point of Zombie Show in this deck? If you have it on turn 1, it's actually good in almost every deck. It just helps you to help pressure. Just use it for trading, not to deal damage. When it comes to later stages, you can probably have Zombie Chows in the bottom of the deck. You can cycle with Auctioneer and suddenly you're finding these Zombie Chows. And if your opponent is still at 13 life, if you're using everything just to clean and maybe you just keep in burst to apply damage after Alex, you can just play the Zombie Chows because your opponent at full life and you will not have any drawback from it.
Okay, and I like the fact that we have another rogue build, by the way. So when facing rogue on a ladder or in a tournament, it will be interesting to see, like, hey, am I playing versus Backspace, Firebats, Miracle, or maybe some weird tempo rogue? So it's really cool that people can still come with new ideas. And even though I felt like metagame is kind of stabilized after VGVN. There is still some room for innovation, and the metagame is still cycles, like Kolento mentioned. So we still might see some new builds like this. Like at the first look, it's a crazy idea with Alex Straza and Zamicha, but after testing, it might actually prove to be a good counter to Hunter and maybe other decks. So certainly a cool idea.
I feel like Miracle at its base already currently still does decent, like good against Hunter. That's kind of what I was using to farm Hunters last season, and my climb in Legend to, I got stopped around like 300 something, and then I free fell all the way to 1,000. But like Miracle in general was still really strong against Hunters. It's just that for some reason people stopped playing it as much. I don't know why. It's still really decent on ladder.
Can say why.
Oh, go ahead.
Tell you. So post Next Rammus minions are really strong. And what Miracle picked from new cards? Lotheb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't even see it in this list. So Tough games you would have won before next Ramos, you will lose because opponent's minions are a bit stronger than they were before.
Yeah, hard to deal with, sticky, and there is always this Sloth up just looming there to shut down your turn. So
Yes.
it's tough.
Yeah, totally makes sense. The death rattles make them stickier, so the removals are less effective. I feel like this rogue build is my closing thought before we kind of move into the Q&A, is that it feels like another build that's specifically good against something, but overall weaker against the rest of the field. Kind of like Malygos with Gadget Sand, right? The ability to kind of like do a bunch of combos, but after like a week and a half, people realize the Leroy version is still in almost every way superior, other than using spells to get past taunts. So maybe this has its place, but for the most part, I feel like it's just a fun build more than anything at the moment.
Oh yeah, I agree. We'll have to see how it works. That's for sure.
All right, cool. Kolento, do you have any last comments on this deck before we transition to the last part of the show?
Nope.
All right, cool. So, guys, we're going to do a couple of shout-outs and community highlights. In the meantime, Gnimsh and Kolento will start looking at the Twitch chat, for better or for worse, of your questions. So if you have any questions directed at any of us, go ahead and type them in, and they'll be fielding them preparing as I do a couple of announcements. The first, we want to give a quick shout-out to Kungin, who was able to take the win against Eggy in Deck Wars by a score of 4-1, even though Kungin was streaming Diablo 3 and hanging out. Seems like he's punched a ticket for Deck Wars Season 2 Finals, which is going to take place on September 16th in about a week and a half. Congrats to Faramir, who also found a new team with DKMR. Faramir also finished in the top 20 of ladder, so I believe that qualifies him for BlizzCon Phase 1 last secondly, so good job to him. And also, there is going to be a Cooler Master show match. Gnimsh will be casting with Admirable because Artosis can't make it. Is that correct, Gnimsh?
Yeah, that's correct. So
Okay.
possibly Dan was the first choice, but I heard that Nathan will cast with me.
Cool. Tides versus Firebat. It's going to be a best of 9, and there's going to be a lot of fun with that. There's even a pre-show match too with a couple of guys. Also in September, there's just going to be so many tournaments. There's Hearthstone's League, which is like a week-long GSL type tournament with up and down promotions. Prismatic Cup number 2. Lord of the Arena number 2 with Tempo Storm is also coming up. And it's going to be insanely packed for the month of September for tournaments. But I hope you guys tune in for most of them. That's it for the community highlights. What's some of the questions we want to tackle first here, Gnimsh or Kolento?
I have a question to Kolento from Zordex123. Kolento, could you play some mage games today so I can watch? So are you going to stream Kolento after today, or do you have a break?
I'm streaming today, so I can't accomplish this request.
Then there is a question from Ken Hartman. Kolento, what's the best aggro deck besides Hunter?
Hunter can be aggro, but mid-range right now is more popular. So what's the best aggro deck? Aggro Warlock. Backspace Rock isn't so strong after new sticky next Ramos minions. Hunted Keeper just shutting down too quickly. Shutting down all aggression.
All right, there's an interesting question here by Slap Pass, excuse me. He probably did that on purpose. He says, what do you think about replacing one Acolyte of Pain with a card like Battle Rage in a Warrior control deck for a more balanced way of drawing and not playing into silences, etc.?
You don't have many minions as a warrior, and you're using all your minions just to remove threats. If you want to make a deck which will be better again with Battle Rage, you should probably play cards like Frozen Berserker, maybe a Money Berserker. You can actually you actually want to damage them, and you will have some synergy with them, but it will be completely different deck. And right now, I don't think that you will succeed with such a kind of decks, since you really trying to hold aggression but not to apply pressure. If you want to apply pressure, Hunter deck feels really stronger.
Okay, cool. I got another one here. What the heck asks Kolento, is there any good tempo rogue list out there? I failed to build one viable in legendary rank.
I missed the question.
Is there any current viable deck or tempo rogue deck that you could play in legend?
I tested like for 2 hours tempo rogue decks with tokens. It just feels. I mean, if you want to play tempo deck, there's better classes for it. What Miracle Rogue has, there's no like drawing. There's no good drawing mechanic in this deck. You still can play other drakes, but there's so many good minions with 5 toughness. Tempo deck can run like Spectral Knights, like Lotep, Sludge Belchers for extra protection. So, as for tempo deck, I would prefer using Druid deck. Not Rogue.
Innervate's the best tempo card for sure. Gnimsh, do you have a question you want to ask?
Yeah, 13376932 asks, Gnimsh, are you still playing Murlocs? Well, I'd love to play Murlocs. I need to try them again, but unfortunately, there's right now Zoo Warlock has too many good minions, and it feels like playing Murlocs is actually not that great. But I might try them. They might surprise some people.
I mean, you're telling me you haven't tried Murloc Druid?
Not yet.
It's the sleeper OP. Everyone keeps forgetting about Druid Murlocs, but one day you're gonna lose to it, and you'll see. Gnimsh, I got another follow-up question to something that you've done. Oh, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I lost a couple times to Murloc Priest deck at lower ranks like months ago. That's still wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets the perfect start, it's still really powerful. Just ask Kartosis. Gnimsh, someone asks you, Crankylicious asks, what do you think about Resurrect Shaman decks? I'm going to transfer this question also to Kolento. Both of you guys can answer.
Well, maybe Kolento first.
Okay, Resurrection Shaman. Is it actually calls Resurrection Shaman? Yes. It calls. How is this card calling?
Reincarnate.
Reincarnate Shamanist. So this deck list should be running. I mean, I used to run deck with Reincarnate, but the problem is you can't actually put a lot of minions which will be good with Reincarnate. For example, what's a good target for Reincarnate? Probably Nerubian Egg, right? If you play Nerubian Egg, you can just play the egg by itself. Plus, if you play Reincarnate on Nerubian Egg, you still will have one useless egg left without the trigger. So you don't only, if you play egg, you should also have a trigger for this eggs. So that's one problem. If you don't run eggs, you automatically have lesser value from Reincarnate. So next point, what can be good with Reincarnate? It's Sylvanas. Kel'Thuzad, probably Alakir. Turn 10, you can play Alakir and Reincarnated to deal 12. Kern is decent. You can spawn Yeti for 2 mana on 8 mana turn. Just Kern Reincarnate. But it's also it's all too slow. And how do you stabilize until? I mean, how do you play not against aggro decks not to die before all this strong plays are coming? How do you play against them? So you need to play double Lightning Storm, probably some more AoEs. You need to play all these low mana cost removals like Earthshock, Lightning Bolt, or Battle Weapon. How do you feel all this in one deck as a Shaman? Not to mention, you also need to have a lot of card draw in deck. So it's just simply not enough space to play Reincarnated and have enough synergy with it. It's my opinion.
All right, cool. Gnimsh?
I agree.
Well said and well met. I think it covers it greatly. I think when I saw, what was it, in VGVN number 1, Gnimsh, was it when Amaz played Reincarnate Shaman? Was that the tournament?
But he had like a even more, because the standard Reincarnate deck is really gimmicky with Ancestrals and stuff, but Amaz, it seemed like his list was kind of like normal shaman, but trying the reincarnate combo. So he had one reincarnate, Baron, and I think one more copy of a card that could be used, but it doesn't seem like a combo, and it wasn't the standard shaman list. So in the end, it didn't work that well.
So
I feel like
he was using his deck before Kolento that came.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even that powerful.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I feel
And
like
I remember the game that he won too. He wasn't even using like reincarnate. He just won with like feral spirits and flame tongues and just fire elementals. Like, well, he
Standard
didn't really
stuff.
use it at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, I feel like from the tournament perspective, the deck idea is like Kolento mentioned. So it seems like you don't have enough cards, card space, and it's not that stable. The thing is, like, you can, if you have a good build, you might surprise some people, like at the tournament. If you are going into a top 8 King of the Hill tournament, you might think about bringing this deck, even if it's a bit worse than standard shaman, because you will have the effect of surprise, and you might actually win the mind games there. But it's a tough call, and I'm not sure if it's a good call to make with a lot of good decks and stable decks, because right now it seems like every class is actually playable and has a good deck that has good matchups against some of the other decks in the metagame.
I like how actually it's non-popular classes became better after Nexamus. They did a really nice job by increasing power of less popular classes.
Yeah, and I have a follow-up question to you, Kolento. Somebody asks, what do we think about the Zetalot's Priest Tempo deck? He did qualify for BlizzCon qualifier last season, finished in top 16, and he got to the Legend first with this deck right now. Did you have a chance to see the list? It's a Tempo
Right
deck.
now, you mean in this season?
Yeah, like maybe you already... Are you Legend already? I think he's Legend 1 right now with this Priest deck.
No, I'm not Legend. I haven't had enough time to do it. Just playing on stream mostly.
Okay,
so what do I think about this deck? If I remember right, it's Undertaker Priest with Zombie Chow and all these minions and only one death, if I remember right, and Cairn, Sylvanas. Yeah, I played against this deck for couple times. As for me, I prefer standard Control Priest. This Undertakers is super good when you have it in the beginning. Like, that priest has 3 1-drops, Clerics, No-Share Clerics, Zombies Chow, and Undertakers. When you open up with them, it's really fine. But the problem is, when you play against Control deck, you kind of applying pressure and you're doing well. But it's so easy to stabilize. For example, Warrior can just simply play 1 Brawl, and most likely he will win the game if you just swarm in the board heavily. Or he might have Fireworks, and your aggression simply cannot accomplish much, because Fireworks will kill 2 of your minions. All your stuff is at 3 toughness until you play Dark Cultist. So
Okay.
I prefer Control Priest more.
Yeah, but this is definitely a list that people can play also, right? It's it might have problem against Brawl, but certainly the list is not bad. Like, he got to Legend 1 and he was having a lot of success. I feel he's only playing this one list, and he's from Poland as well. Like, I'm not sure if people know, but
Oh, so that's a main reason you like the deck.
well, you have to promote some people. But by the way, Neria is from Ukraine, right? If I remember correctly. So
Not sure, but he knows Russian language. I spoke to him a couple times.
Okay.
All right. We have a question. Let's see. Fee was here, asks, are there any decks that run Deathwing? He's huge, and I want to see him in decks. So is there a viable deck that you can create with Deathwing, in your opinion, Kolento?
There's so many hard removals, and Deathwing is so unstable. It's 10 mana turn, and you can die before Deathwing comes. And even if Deathwing comes, but I mean, you still can lose to simple Hunter's Mark, like, or Shadow of Death if you play against Beast, or Execute if you play against Warrior. So many hard removals people might have, and you're paying such a huge price just to play this minion. You're sacrificing card you might have over it. You can play before turn 10, and you're discarding all your hand. And it just doesn't feel correct to play it in any deck.
Yeah, right now
Gnimsh?
it's a tough spot, really tough spot for Deathwing. I actually asked the same question today to Kolento, if we can play Deathwing somewhere, but there's just too many cards, like Mind Control and whatever, like every removal card, so it's really tough. I have a good question, by the way, Frodan.
Okay.
So Kolento, can you talk through your mindsets when you're trying to create a new deck? So how are you getting to creating new decks?
I have a huge experience in ladder, and let's say I'm imagining one matchup. Let's say I'm trying to make a deck, and I'm playing against a particular class. How can I open up, and what's my win condition? Probably I can win by doing a mid-range deck, but I can win like playing controlly against mid-range decks, other mid-range decks, and win by having some better valuable plays. Like if I play mid-range Paladin, I can probably run one Tyrion because it's just such a valuable card. And just imagining how it will go, and how I will hold aggression against aggro decks. How will I play against control decks? And experience helps me a lot. And just I can imagine situations I will be facing, and just add minions which will be helpful when I'm struggling against some kind of situation I can imagine. Something like that.
Okay, that's a pretty interesting line of thought. From my end, to answer the question, I'm mostly trying to. Well, I was building decks in the beginning of Hearthstone, but right now I guess I just like taking decks and trying to tweak them when I play, and that's. I was never a very experienced deck builder when I was playing other card games. I'm more like a spike player, so I take decks and I try to improve them, or like change them to fit my playstyle.
Or put ETC in.
Yes,
That's just
put
the goal.
ETC in every deck.
That's right. I have a question. I think that's cool. This one's asking for Kolento and Gnimsh. What card do you wish that could be made into the meta that currently isn't in it?
Neutral spells.
Oh, I think he meant in terms of the current card pool. Like, what card is not currently popular in the metagame that you want to be good in the metagame?
Oh, okay. I can answer first.
Stoneskin Gargoyle.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, the new Naxxramas card, right? The 1/4/3 mana.
Yeah, it's just unplayable right now. It's super bad.
If it was a 2/4, would it be too strong? Or do you think that's
It's still underpowered, even 2/4.
Wow. Okay.
I will have to go with Deathwing, because I just like the card as well. So I'd love to see Deathwing in a metagame. But this metagame will be pretty weird. It will be a control metagame where you fight for a board, and when you finally get it, then you are afraid of Deathwing. But something will have to be changed. Like maybe Deathwing being untargetable or something like that. So
Untargetable Deathwing. Wow.
Or maybe give Deathwing like a lot of power, but increase it to 8 so that they can't play any cards. Or discard both hands. Play Deathwing, discard both hands. That would be awesome.
Wow, Gnimsh.
I will never be designer of this game, I know.
Yeah, I'm really glad you didn't get the position they hired Reels. Thank goodness. All right. I think we have time for like a few more questions. Kolento, did you see a question that you wanted to answer at all by any chance?
I'm not checking chat actually.
Okay. Gnimsh, did you see another question you want to tackle here?
There is a question about Kern. Is it my favorite card? Or Kieran?
Cairn. Right?
Kieran. Okay.
Kern.
I will have to practice it in front of a mirror, I guess, for the next tournament.
Sure.
Oh, Kolento, there's a question from Dr. Damon. Who do you think is the best player in the world apart from you?
I already answered it in the AMA which I did for Liquid side. I don't really want to judge.
Okay.
All
Fair.
right, cool.
It's like a lot of players which are really strong and similar in terms of skill. And I can't even say that. I can't even say top 5. I can't say top 10. Maybe 100 will be nice word to describe the power of all these players because they're so even.
All right. Sheepdog asks Kolento, is Paladin viable currently? And if it isn't, what changes could help? Maybe if there was a 1 mana card that summons a 1/1. I don't know about that last question, but just talk a little bit about Paladin's state in the metagame, I guess.
Contra Paladin is playable, in my opinion, right now. Decent against everything as it was before. Yeah, it's not an easy deck to play. Struggling a bit against Zulu, but Contra Paladin never was underpowered. And after next Ramos, I would say nothing changed. Even with Sludge Belcher, Paladin didn't get stronger since there's a lot of Death Rattle minions and it's much harder to get some usage from quality combos. So Paladin is playable, it's a decent deck to use, but nothing crazy about this class. And actually don't like new cards. Paladin got is how it goes, Avenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The new 1 mana secret. Yeah.
Yeah, Avenge. Not excited about this card at all. Just a 3/2, and you can trigger the secret on your turn. So, in case of if you only had a chance to trigger the secret on your turn, it would have been a decent card to play. But since you can't, it's like a Flame Imp, but you're buffing random minion. And drawback from Flame Imp is not so big in my opinion. So, just a bad card.
Dark Onyx was experimenting with it, but I don't think anyone's found out a real way to use Avenge at the moment. So, yeah, I kind of agree with sentiments there. Let's see. There's questions about Pirates because that's the new card back that's been revealed. A lot of people want to know about Pirates viability and
people also know about
/or if you will
Pirates.
play Pirates. Do you have any comments on that, Kolento, on Pirates archetype?
I knew Trump was trying to use Pirates in Warrior deck, and he haven't had great success, and it's obvious since Pirates, 2/3 Pirate, Bloodsail, Raider. Is it Raider? Yeah, it's Raider. So it's a decent card to run, but it's only 3 toughness minion, and it's quite not so hard to remove it compared to Hunted Creeper. Yes, you're getting this bonus from weapon, but it's a whole card, and besides of this bonus and this high attack damage, if you have a weapon, you're not getting much. And the 3/3 pirate, which gives +1/+1, it's just a 3/3 minion by itself, and you don't have any pirates. And in case of Marlocks, you have some Marlocks to work with. In case of pirates, there's really few you can use.
Okay.
So it sucks. That's what Kolento says. Pirates.
By the way, about Pirates, if you guys want to see Trump playing Pirates, he was playing versus me 2 weeks ago on the first episode of Tabletop. We were playing a Warrior Mirror. I was playing a solo warrior without any minions, so my only means to win the game was with the weapons. And Trump was playing a pirate warrior against me. The game was pretty close. I won't spoil the score, but definitely that was a cool match. So you can check the VOD on YouTube.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe we'll see some of these fun suggestions like Deathwing, etc., in Tabletop episode next week. I think we have time for one more question before we go to final shoutouts and close out the show. Gnimsh or Kolento, do you see a question you want to tackle?
Well, I maybe want to. There is a question about Strifecrawl's Zeus Shaman in the metagame. Like the spell damage shaman. Does it actually have a place in metagame? Does it really work? like spell damage, Ancient Mage, double Fork Lightning. Kolento, what do you think? Does it make sense?
Zeus Shaman. I know Strike was trying to use it on tournament once, and it just feels a bit weak when you can't maintain board control. And this spell power, you're still using cards to deal with spell power damage, right? And you don't have cards like Sheaf, which actually draws you another card. So you're spending resources. Yeah, you're spending resources with high efficiency, but it's still cards. And you're running cards like Ancient Mage, which is by itself isn't so good, and he also doesn't draw your card. And what is your win conditions then? My next question should be.
A good question. I'm not sure if he was running a Lakir. I think he was running a Lakir. You can burst your opponent down with all the spell damage and then cast Lava Burst for 8 twice.
To use Ancient Mage, you need minions. To use Defender of Argus, you need minions. Same thing about Flame Totem. Just too vulnerable to aggro decks.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Unless there was one more question, I think that can wrap up our Q&A. Do you see anything else, Gnimsh, that you want to ask?
There is a question. A card concept that I like to be added to the game. I'd love to have enchantments, which is the cards that you play.
Permanent spells.
Yeah, permanent spells basically. So a card you play and it stays on board, and in different games it's like in Warcraft we had ongoing abilities, ongoing spells. So you play a spell and it stays on board and it has a recurring effect, or you can sacrifice it. In some other games there are like world-changing events, and those cards always add some more fun to the game and more depth, because you have those effects and you have to then have removal for those cards as well. So I really enjoy those types of cards, and I was playing a lot of them and when I was playing Magic and both Warcraft. So I'm definitely looking forward to this concept being introduced at some future expansion.
Can you give me an example? Because I don't understand how it works.
So like in Magic the Gathering, for example, if you play, rather than play something like Arcane Intellect, you could play like a card that gives you a draw at the beginning of your turn, every single turn. And it's just a spell. And the only way to remove it is if you like silence the card or have a card that says destroy enchantment or something like that.
It's like totems, kind of like a totem, but no
Mana
stats.
Totem?
Yeah, like
Mana Grind Totem?
Yeah.
Mana Grind Totem.
Kind of like
yeah.
Mana Totem.
So you play Mana Grind Totem, and then it doesn't have stats. It's just a spell that remains on board. So you can't kill it like a minion. You have to have a spell or like a minion that removes.
But isn't it too strong if you can draw a card every turn and...
Oh yeah, that would be
Well, that's an
strong.
example. Say like every card that gets in play gets -1 health or something. I don't know. Like there's lots of kinds of cool ways you can play with this concept.
I guess it's interesting. Yes,
But then you need to create a bunch of counters, and then like the problem is if there's only one class that has counters to enchantments, that all of a sudden becomes much stronger, kind of like Flare with secrets, right? So they probably have to introduce counterplay,
Minions.
like maybe some kind of Harrison Jones effect.
Yeah, neutral minions. You introduce a cheap minion and a more expensive one, and you're good. Then everybody can play the counter, and it's a really cool concept, like world-changing stuff. Like all the minions have +1/+1, but you can destroy it. So it's not like a permanent effect like Power of the Wild, but just a static effect that's being given by a card. And if you destroy the card, then you can get better trades.
But decks are limited, and how do you fit all these new cards? I mean, if you will apply enchantments, you should run like 3 enchantments at least, right?
Yeah.
And you should also run counter to enchantments. And your decks are already... I mean, how do you find the space in Shaman decks? I just no. Every card feels so important.
Well, the thing is, like, for example, if you get a Druid ability, which is +1/+1 to all the minions, then you can decide if you want to run Power of the Wild or if you want to run the +1/+1, which is static, because Power of the Wild only works on minions that are on the board when you cast it, but the +1/+1 enchantment will work as long as it's in the game. So For example, you play it on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you play like Shade of Naxxramas, which is already a free when you play it because it's buffed. And then
But it's too strong.
that might be too strong, but I like I'm just explaining the effect, right? It will be kind of like a different mechanic. So definitely in Hearthstone, +1/+1 a static effect that's as an enchantment will be too strong. But maybe a +1/+0 will be okay for like 3 mana. It's more about balancing, but the mechanic is definitely interesting and it can do a lot of stuff. Or like maybe -1/-1 to all the opposing creatures. That will be too strong as well.
I'm sure there's a concept out there.
He just dies.
No, please, no leopard gnomes.
Anything that kills leopard gnomes, I'm in favor for. I guess the one thing that I want right now is more interaction with spells, because sometimes, like when spells ruled the metagame, I felt like Hearthstone was the most boring for me personally. Because you can't really stop too many spells, and then Lothar was kind of introduced, which is cool. But I also would think like there's fun stuff, like if there was the equivalent of taunt but for spells, so kind of like a lightning rod in the sense where you have to cast target spells, like spellbender in a way. But like something a little bit more, like some kind of ability where if a minion puts out, you have to target spells on that minion, and then there's like cool ways to bypass that taunt with silences or AoE. I don't know, but I think like I just want to bring back more interaction in Hearthstone, because when you play a bunch of spells, especially for Miracle Rogue or when Combo Druid was really popular, that felt really unfun to me. I don't know.
By the way, bypassing taunt is interesting because in World of Warcraft we could bypass taunt when a minion had a stealth ability. So basically, in Hearthstone, it would be interesting if they like use the same mechanic that you can bypass taunt, but there will be a different keyword on a minion. So instead of stealth, it will be like, I don't know, flying, and then you just or whatever.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. Hearthstone has a lot of room to play with it, and I hope we hear more news in BlizzCon, because they seem like they're constantly free to talk about a little bit of details on a new expansion, and it's almost kind of getting to that point where we want to hear details on the next one. That's for sure. All right, that wraps up the show. I think we're coming up on that mark where we need to end real quickly. So as a final shout-outs, let's talk a little bit about iHeartU and what they're doing. If you want coaching, whether from Gnimsh or some of the other Cloud9 guys or other sweet members like KitKats, etc., you can go to iHeartU.com/coaching. There's also a new RSS feed and iTunes URL. If you want to stay updated with Turn2 podcasts, say you have to miss the next one, just go to iHeartU to find the new ones. And then the King of the Hill will be DKMR's Powder versus MYM Skip. That's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday, which is tomorrow, as well as the VOD of the episode today and Tabletop will be released in eventual few hours. That does it for me. Do you have any final comments and shoutouts before we let you go, Kolento?
Actually, no.
Oh, come on, no shoutouts.
I feel pretty exhausted right now, so I don't want to talk anymore.
All right, well, Gnimsh, you're going to have to make up for it because he didn't mention any of Cloud9's sponsors and thank yous.
No worries. Well, it's midnight on Kolento's side, so it's no wonder that he's exhausted. Okay, so a big shout out to Cloud9 team and everybody on Cloud9. And shout out to our sponsors, HyperX, Logitech, Air Force Reserve, Alienware, Low Class, Need for Speed, Homejoy, and Sidequick. Big shout out to iHeartU.com and Simon, who is our production guy and doing all the cool stuff you've seen during this episode. He's doing it live. Shout out to Frodan for being our host today. Thank you so much. You did a great job. And shout out to all the viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And thank you for listening, because we have a lot of people actually listening to the podcast as well. So definitely a shout out to you guys who download the episode and listen on trains, like Young Woo from Blizzard, listening every week. Thank you so much.
Awesome. That's right, guys.
Shoutouts.
Very nicely done, Gnimsh. Make sure you guys hit the follow button on the Twitch channel so that way you guys know when we go live. I want to give a quick shout out to Temple Storm, #1 team in Hearthstone, proven for, and we'll take our title back next month. You hear my words. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Turn2. So from Frodan, Gnimsh, Kolento, and Simon from the production crew, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.